French Montana just pulled off a move that has the internet buzzing. On paper, it looks like a fairy tale. He's linked to a Dubai princess, said to be tied to billions.
So this is the daughter of the ruler of Dubai, and apparently she used this controversial rule on social media.
But 50 Cent claims it's not about love at all. According to him, this is a $7 billion Vanish plan.
So I usually do my homework. I'll find somebody who knows somebody or something. They could give me some information, like who is it? Like who is he? And Frenchie, they got me the tape. They got me the tape of his mother's house, where his mom's work at. You know what I'm saying? The other cribs, the studios, stuff like that.
That's the Cali tape.
Right.
Okay.
A survival strategy dressed up as romance. The timing is too sharp to ignore. French was once Diddy's closest shadow, seen at the wild parties, the flashy trips, and always in the spotlight when the cameras were rolling. Now, with federal eyes locked on Diddy and his circle, French shows up in Dubai, clean, smiling, and suddenly untouchable. To fans, it looks like an upgrade. To critics, it looks like trading one leash for another. The question is simple. Did French escape the fire or step into a hotter one? But that wasn't the whole story. What pushed French to make such a drastic move is even more revealing. When people think of Dubai, the first image is always gold, shiny towers, sports cars wrapped in diamonds, pet tigers on yachts. To outsiders, it looks like paradise built from endless wealth. And for someone like French Montana, linking himself to that world looks like the ultimate level up. From the Bronx streets to palaces with chandeliers bigger than apartments, it reads like a dream. But every dream has a shadow. Behind the glam, Dubai has a reputation that's been whispered about for years. Stories of outsiders flown in for luxury, only to realize they're not the ones holding power. Men and women both have come back with tales that sound more like cautionary warnings than vacation memories. And that's what makes French's sudden engagement feel strange to many. He didn't just find love, he tied himself to a family worth over $18 billion, a dynasty with influence that stretches across the globe. To regular fans, it looks like French escaped the chaos of America's legal storms. But those who know the history of Dubai's royals wonder if he escaped one cage only to step into another, painted gold but just as controlling. French may be smiling in photos, but the streets are asking who really holds the power in this new relationship. Because in Dubai, outsiders rarely call the shots. And this is exactly where 50 Cent's voice cuts through the noise, because he's not just trolling, he's pointing to the cracks in the fairy tale. If there's one person who never misses a chance to poke at French Montana, it's 50 Cent. What started as petty trolling years ago has turned into something much bigger. Every time French makes a move, 50's right there with a post, a joke, or a slick comment. But this time, his shade cut deeper. When 50 joked that French got bought, fans didn't just laugh. They started asking if he was telling the truth, because in hip-hop, 50 isn't just a clown, he's a survivor. He built his empire by staying independent, dodging traps, and owning his power. So when he points out that French traded Diddy's leash for Dubai's gold chain, it feels less like comedy and more like a warning. Think about it, 50 Cent has always had that older brother energy, the type to roast you hard but still want you to wake up. And when he drags French for flashing luxury while linking himself to a royal family, it's not just about jealousy, it's about the bigger picture. 50 knows what it means to get caught in a system you can't control. He climbed out. French, on the other hand, might have just climbed in deeper. And that's why this shade hits so hard. It didn't feel random. It felt like 50 was pulling back the curtain, saying out loud what the streets were already whispering. But that wasn't the first time French's choices raised eyebrows. To understand why critics believe survival drives his every move, you have to rewind back to his decision to sign with Bad Boy Records.
Collar comes out, like we said, and now you have real deals on the table. And out of all those, you go with Diddy.
That's not how it really went.
Was it Diddy? Was it Bad Boy MMG?
Yeah, I went to go see Ross. And Ross was like, I got an opportunity for you. I don't have the money for you, but I got the opportunity. I guess because the same thing Meek did, the same thing Wale did. I guess whatever the way the situation, his label was, he wasn't trying to give me the money I wanted. And I wanted like a whole bunch of money. But he was like, look, let's do it like this. Let's call Puff. And let's get him to give you the bag. You can still be MMG / you know what I'm saying? Bad Boy, Coke Boys, yep.
Right. How much money did you get?
$2 million.
To really get why people think French Montana's Dubai move is more survival than romance, you have to look back at how he first rose inside the industry. French wasn't some unknown rapper hustling for scraps. By the time he was looking for a major deal, he had serious buzz, mixtapes in the streets, and multiple offers on the table. Rock Nation circled. Rick Ross and MMG made a push. Even Kanye's camp showed interest. With options that strong, most artists would have signed with the team offering stability or bigger money. But French, he chose Bad Boy Records. And that decision never sat right with fans. Why? Because Bad Boy wasn't just a label, it was a lifestyle. And that lifestyle came with rumors that stretched way beyond music. The contracts were known to be shady, the money rarely added up, and whispers said access came with strings attached. Some say Diddy didn't just hand out deals, he handed out invitations to a world of parties, favors, and so-called freak-offs that blurred the line between business and personal. For years, French was seen as Puff's right-hand man, smiling next to him at birthdays, popping bottles at trips, and riding shotgun through a lifestyle others only dared to whisper about. Fans clocked it. Every time French took less money than Ross or Jay might have offered, every time he showed up shirtless in a video with Puff in a robe, the internet raised eyebrows. And when Diddy's scandals exploded, people looked back and asked if French's success came with hidden costs. But that wasn't the end of the whispers. The deeper people dug, the more they started asking what French might have sacrificed for that fast rise. French Montana's rise under Bad Boy came fast, but it also came with questions that never fully disappeared. Fans started piecing together moments that felt too strange to ignore. Videos of French stumbling out of villas, photos of him looking drained after wild weekends with Puff, clips that made people whisper he was giving more than just music to stay in the spotlight. Then came the rumors from producers and ex-associates who claimed deals weren't just signed with contracts, they were sealed with favors. One producer even swore that when he refused to play along, Diddy blackballed him. That only added fuel to the fire. People started connecting dots. Why did French take less upfront money than other labels offered? Why was he always at Diddy's side during those infamous celebrations? Why did his career suddenly skyrocket after choosing Bad Boy, despite the label's history of broken promises? To the industry, it looked like hustle. To the streets, it looked like survival at a cost. And the cost wasn't just money, it was reputation. French became known as the artist who played along, the one who didn't mind bending if it meant leveling up. That's why when the feds turned their eyes on Diddy, French's name kept popping up in whispers. He wasn't just a friend, he was part of the inner circle, and that kind of heat doesn't fade. It only makes people wonder if French was willing to pay the price once, what would stop him from doing it again on a bigger stage? And that's exactly where the Dubai story picks up, because his next move looked less like romance and more like a carefully planned escape. By mid-2024, the pressure around Diddy was at an all-time high. Federal agents were digging through every connection, from producers to assistants, and anyone who spent too much time in his orbit suddenly looked like a target. And where was French Montana?
Hi guys.
Not in New York, not in LA, he was showing up in Paris, flashing luxury fits, and most importantly, showing off a new fiancée. Not just any fiancée either, Shikamaru, a Dubai princess tied to a dynasty worth more than $18 billion. The timing was too perfect to ignore. Just as Diddy's circle grew toxic, French popped up with a royal link that gave him more than love, it gave him protection. Marriage into that kind of wealth means more than a wedding ring. It means a new passport, a residency in one of the most guarded regions in the world, and most of all, a shield from outsiders digging too close to his fans. It looked like a fairy tale. To his critics, it looked like a strategy, an escape plan dressed up in designer suits. And Cartier vows the quick engagement raised even more suspicion. Why now? Why so fast? And why choose a family whose power stretches far beyond music or Hollywood? For many, the answer was simple. French wasn't chasing romance, he was chasing survival. But even in paradise, shadows follow. And the deeper you look into Dubai's royal life, the more you realize French might not have escaped danger. He might have stepped into something far heavier.
Tell you what I actually learned. A friend of mine is an air hostess, and her friend was on a flight with her, and her friend was eating like a very specific diet. So apparently the thing is, it's actually a control thing. I don't know if I can speak about sheikhs.
No, speak.
So these guys actually pay these women to hold a strict diet for like 2 weeks so that they can know that they are in complete control of what that woman is putting into her body, and the girl is shit on them.
Wow.
So the girls aren't even getting shit on, the girls are shit on these guys, because then the guys feel like it's sick, like it's a control thing. So then they know, like, oh, you listened to me for 2 weeks.
Yeah, so that's probably their kink, that girls actually listen to them.
No 2-minute noodle.
On the surface, Dubai looks like a dream built from gold, but peel back the glitter and the whispers get darker. For years, stories have circled about what really goes on behind palace walls. Influencers have flown in wide-eyed, chasing the glam, only to sneak back with tales of being treated more like property than guests. Both men and women have spoken of parties where outsiders weren't equals, they were accessories. In that world, power decides everything, and outsiders rarely hold it. Now think about French Montana stepping into that space. Against an $18 billion dynasty, his fame and fortune shrink. He might be rich to us, but to them, he's just decoration, and the family he tied himself to isn't free from scandal. Remember Princess Latifah's failed escape, or Princess Shamsa's alleged abduction? Both tied back to the same ruler, French's new father-in-law. Even Shikamaru herself made headlines with a viral Insta divorce, breaking tradition in public. It showed that royal life isn't just luxury, It's a maze of control, tradition, and power plays that can turn brutal when challenged. So when people say French traded one cage for another, they're not exaggerating. He may have left behind Diddy's chaos, but he could now be living under rules even stricter. A golden cage is still a cage, no matter how shiny it looks.
Table, and I'm sure there were some other ones also.
I came to Steve Rifkin when I had Chopper Down. I walked in the office, it was him and Gabi. And Gabi was the manager. I was like, yo, Steve, give me $200,000. Let me go make music. You know what I'm saying? Just let me. Steve was like, nah, I'll give it to you.
Never got it.
Never got it. I dropped.
Which is funny because Gabi's the president of SRC. Steve is like the CEO, but
so I don't know what type of
but Steve makes the final call.
So I asked for $200,000. You know what I'm saying?
And this is exactly why 50 Cent's words sting, because they sound less like a joke and more like a warning about the game French might be trapped in. For years, 50 Cent has roasted French Montana, from calling him washed to dragging him online with memes. It always seemed like harmless trolling. But in moments like this, people are starting to wonder if Fifth's jokes are more like warnings dressed as shade. He built his career on survival and independence. He didn't bow to major labels, he flipped his street hustle into ownership, and he never let anyone else control his name. So when he says French got bought, it lands different. It sounds less like comedy and more like a veteran pointing out the trap. 50's career is proof of what happens when you control your moves. He made his millions off business, shows, and music he owned. French, on the other hand, has a track record of tying himself to powerful men for opportunity. First Diddy, now Dubai royal. And this is exactly why 50 Cent's words sting, because they sound less like a joke and more like a warning about the game French might be trapped in. For years, 50 Cent has roasted French Montana, from calling him washed to dragging him online with memes. It always seemed like harmless trolling. But in moments like this, people are starting to wonder if Fifth's jokes are more like warnings dressed as shade. He built his career on survival and independence. He didn't bow to major labels, he flipped his street hustle into ownership, and he never let anyone else control his name. So when he says French got bought, it lands different. It sounds less like comedy and more like a veteran pointing out the trap. 50's career is proof of what happens when you control your moves. He made his millions off business, shows, and music he owned. French, on the other hand, has a track record of tying himself to powerful men for opportunity. First Diddy, now Dubai royalty. And that contrast is exactly why 50's voice cuts through. He knows what it looks like to be owned because he fought to avoid it his whole career. French, by comparison, looks like he's leaning into it. That's why 50's shade keeps sticking. To fans, it feels like he's clowning French. To insiders, it feels like he's dropping gems in disguise. It's that older brother energy. Roast you until you laugh, but hope you wake up before it's too late. And it raises the real question. Maybe French isn't trapped at all. Maybe this was his plan from the start. When most people look at French Montana's move to Dubai, they see a trap. They see a man trading one master for another, walking from Diddy's fire straight into Dubai's stove. But what if French doesn't see it that way? Maybe he doesn't care about freedom the way 50 Cent does. Maybe his goal was never independence, it was comfort. To him, palace walls aren't a cage. They're security, servants on call, luxury cars, and protection from the chaos he left behind in the States. For some, that looks like selling out. For French, it might look like finally winning. Think about it. Not everyone wants the grind of independence. Some chase power, others chase safety. French has already lived through scandals, whispers, and the stress of being linked to Diddy during one of the darkest times in hip-hop. Now, instead of fighting for credibility, he's sipping tea under chandeliers, smiling in photos next to a princess. To critics, it screams servitude, but to him, it might feel like royalty. And that's the paradox. French may have traded freedom for security, but maybe that was always the plan. While 50 Cent laughs, French could be laughing too, just behind palace gates where no one can touch him. But even if French thinks he's safe, the bigger question remains, what happens if his new paradise decides he's no longer useful? French Montana's story has always been about survival. From the Bronx grind to Bad Boy Records, he's shown he'll do what it takes to stay in the game. But this latest chapter, linking himself to Dubai royalty, feels bigger than music. On the surface, it's a love story worth billions. But dig deeper, and it looks like a carefully crafted Vanish plan. The timing, the power dynamics, the whispers about control, it all paints a picture that's more strategy than romance. 50 Cent's shade made people laugh, but it also sparked a conversation many were already having. Did French really escape Diddy's chaos, or did he just step into a golden cage with stronger locks? Fans see the fairy tale, critics see the trade-off, and French, he might see the security he's always wanted, even if it means sacrificing independence. The irony is hard to ignore. 50 built his empire on freedom. French may be building his on servitude disguised as luxury. To one man, that looks like weakness. To the other, it looks like winning. And that's why this story hits so deep. It's not just about French Montana. It's about the choices artists make when survival is on the line. So the question remains, did French Montana outsmart the system, or did he sell his freedom for comfort behind palace walls? And if the whispers about Dubai's royals are even halfway true, how long before his escape plan feels more like a trap?